Week 11, here we are. We got some good games this week. Games which earlier in the season looked like a complete snooze fest are going to be action-packed, dynamic matchups. And games we thought were going to be high octane are going to be dull. Speaking of dull, the Carolina Panthers are hosting the Dallas Cowboys. And look, Bryce Young has gotten a lot of flack. Some advanced analytics have shown that, hey, maybe he's throwing accurate balls. It really doesn't matter. When your number one option is Adam Thielen, there is only so much you can do in the year 2023. But I actually did talk to Frank Reich this week, in preparation for this prediction. I did. And he told me that they need to be better on third down. They need to get their defense going. And they'd like to establish the run game a little bit more. Those are things he completely said are not made up at all. But even if he does manage to get those things going, I'm still siding with the Cowboys. Just a better team in all aspects of football. This is not a complicated prediction.
That's some hard-hitting journalism right there.
Oh yeah, hard-hitting.
I mean, you saw what the Cowboys did to the Giants last week. Maybe it's a tiny bit closer because the Panthers actually have a better than Danny DeVito starting quarterback, but the Cowboys will win. Now, my game, the first game I'm going to talk about, the Steelers taking on the Browns. The Browns lose Deshaun Watson last week. DTR is getting his second opportunity. Both defenses, two of the better defenses in the NFL. The Browns on a historic run. The Steelers offense atrocious. I think everyone thinks this is not going to be a very high-scoring game. The Browns may struggle to move the ball with DTR. The Steelers are going to struggle to move the ball because they're the Steelers offense. And I think the Steelers are going to win this one because DTR struggled the first time. His second week starting, maybe it'll look a little bit better, but TJ Watt's going to get after him. That Steelers pass rush, I think, is going to get the job done. And I think the Steelers are going to squeak out with a win. But this could go either way with how the defenses play.
Now, far be it for me to wish anything good upon the Cleveland Browns and their organization of criminals and or scumbags, but I think it'd be really funny, and I mean really funny, if now that Deshaun Watson is hurt with his fully guaranteed contract, our good pal DTR comes in and just plays otherworldly lights-out football. Just is so clearly better than the level Deshaun Watson was on all year. That would be really funny if the Browns were stuck in a quarterback position where they're paying one guy $150 million over the next 3 years, and they got this other rookie who probably should be the starter. Do I think that's going to happen? No. The Browns stink. Steelers are going to win. But that was a little fun hypothetical I was going to posit to you.
I'd appreciate that. I think we all would love to see DTR succeed. Anyone loves to see a rookie succeed.
You hate Quentin Johnson. You don't want that man to succeed at all.
No, I'd be happy for him if he succeeded. That'd be great. He just hasn't been good, and I haven't thought he's very good since he came into the league. So
you can't really say he was bad in college. He got picked in the first round. There are not many bad college football players outside of Anthony Richardson who had that happen. But moving on, Chicago versus Detroit in Detroit. Justin Fields might be back. Ooh. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. The Lions offense, even if Fields is rolling out there for the Bears, is just so much better. And I'd take the Lions defense. It's not a particularly compelling defensive matchup one way or the other. I think the Lions pass rush is clearly better. Maybe Montez Sweat has drastically improved the Bears. I'll be honest, I have not been going out of my way to watch games with Tyson Bagent as the quarterback, so I couldn't really tell you. But I'm going with the Lions. Their O-line's great. Their running game's great. Their receivers are great. They're better passing the football. Their coach bites kneecaps, or I could go do some more coach speak about how they pick up third downs and are gritty on defense. But Detroit's got this one.
Well, it's Justin Fields' first game back, and the Lions are way more dynamic offensively with all the different weapons they have. The two running backs, a very good offensive line, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're still kind of looking for a receiver to complement him.
No, they got a top 5 tight end in football. Let's not pretend that's a
I was just about to say, they do have Sam Laporte. I was speaking receivers specifically, and their defense is still not the best in the world. So I think this has the potential to become a high-scoring game with Justin Fields back. I think the Lions defense could potentially struggle with that, especially with how they struggled with Lamar Jackson. Now, I know two very different players, but I think it could become high-scoring, and I think the Lions are going to win. Now, I just got all the exciting matchups this week. We have the Chargers taking on the Packers, two teams that have been very disappointing. The Chargers, because we thought they'd be very good. The Packers, well, I guess they're not disappointing. They're probably about living up to our expectations for them, for those realists
well,
out
a certain someone who will remain nameless but has 4 letters in their first name and 3 in their last predict the Packers to win the NFC North.
That's not going to happen. Their offense, whatever you want to say, whether it's Christian Watson not being that guy, Jordan Love not being that guy, whether it's the fact that Aaron Jones can't stay on the field, they're just not as good as the Chargers. as bad as the Chargers have been, I'd like to think if they lose this game, it's Brandon Staley's final one. I've been saying this every single week for like the past 4 or 5 weeks. I think the Chargers will win, but you never know with Brandon Staley and how many points that defense gives
Brandon
up.
Staley's an offensive-minded head coach. There's no other explanation for how the Chargers defense has been performing. I don't think we need to get into a nuanced discussion or anything. The offense was totally the reason he was hired. I'm picking the Packers in this one just because I think their defense is clear enough for the Chargers to make it a low-scoring game, and the Chargers do not win low-scoring games. Speaking of low-scoring games, we're not getting one here. Arizona versus Houston. Kyler Murray back in the saddle, being super clutch, getting his team decisive victories, facing off against Houston. And the Texans defense got gouged by another Heisman-winning quarterback from the Lincoln Riley system in Baker Mayfield a few weeks ago. And I kind of think that happens again. Worse receivers, sure. Better quarterback who has better legs and a better arm, also sure. It's going to be a dynamic game. Old CJ Stroud, Kyler, Turn on the TV, man. This might be the game I watched during the 1 p.m. hour, come to think of it. High scoring, offensive duels between two young star quarterbacks. I'm giving this one to CJ and company over the Cardinals just because I think he's got a much better supporting cast. This is going to be an exciting game. I'm happy with this matchup. This matchup is so much better than we thought it was going to be week 1, week 2.
Why do we have to agree on so many games? Because I was about to say the same exact thing. I think the Texans are going to win just because they have more offensive pieces than the Cardinals do right now. I know they got James Conner coming back after missing a couple weeks. Kyler Murray's back, and they have, the most important pieces of their offense there, but they don't have the receivers to compete with the Texans, who Noah Brown has been cooking. Tank Dell has been very good. Nico Collins has been very good. Dalton Schultz has been very productive.
Devin Singletary getting more than one carry, being somewhat effective.
So the Texans, they got more pieces. I think they should win. And then we have not another AFC South matchup, but we have an AFC South matchup. Titans taking on the Jags. And the Jags were absolutely embarrassed by the 49ers in their last game. Trevor Lawrence looked like he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. The 49ers defense has a tendency to do that to quarterbacks. And I don't think the Jags are going to come off that game and lay up another goose egg. I think they're going to be better this week. It's in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a rebound game, and the Jags are going to beat the Titans.
The problem with that sentiment is we've got a Derrick Henry versus AFC South game, which completely throws off any defensive structure the Jaguars have. All due respect to Jacksonville's front seven. They've been elite all year. Josh Allen, top 5 pass rusher. I don't think I'm being controversial in saying that. Good run defender too. It's going to be one of those Derrick Henry games where he gets back on pace for a super productive season. 150, 200 yards, a little bit through the air, enough to get Will Levis some cushion, let him work. 2 touchdowns, bare minimum. I'm giving this one to the Titans in a close game. They're the better defense. They've got a dynamic offense if they're playing against the Jaguars, the Texans, or various other AFC South opponents. Based off that alone, I'm giving it to Tennessee. Much less interesting game, half a dynamic matchup. The Raiders are going on down to Miami. And they got the interim coach. Things are turning around in that building. Chandler Jones wants to be back on the team. Doesn't matter. Dolphins are still just the better unit. They're better offensively, got better weapons, better coached. Tua is a better quarterback than Aiden O'Connell. Shocking, I know. And I don't think this one stays close. I think we maybe get through the first quarter where it's like 14-7, something like that. And then the Dolphins just blow it open. That Raiders defense is not going to be able to keep up with the Dolphins. There's no two ways about it. It is going to be a one-sided bloodbath in Miami. It's going to deflate the momentum of that interim coach team a little bit down there in Las Vegas. I'd feel bad for them. I really would if they weren't getting the athletics. They got that news this week. Shout out to Las Vegas. Their owner will pay for his sins one day. But I'm giving this one to the Dolphins.
Yeah, the Dolphins are coming off of a bye week. They've been struggling a little bit compared to how good they looked at the beginning of the season. So I think coming off the bye week against a not so great team that has an interim head coach, I think they're going to put up big offensive numbers. The defense, which at points has been good, at points hasn't been so good, is going to show up. And I also think they're going to win. Now the Giants taking on the Commanders. We still got Tommy DeVito at quarterback. The only person that's functioning on the Giants offense is Saquon Barkley, and occasionally they try and throw a 50-yard pass up in the air to Jalen Hyatt in triple coverage. That sometimes occurs. There's not much. The Giants don't have much going from an offense. Defense has been weirdly okay in spots, but the offense is so bad they don't really have an opportunity to get off the field. So I mean, the Commanders have one of the best passing attacks in the NFL. The Giants don't have an offense right now. Commanders are going to win.
I mean, look at it this way, man. The Giants defense is getting the benefit of playing tired offenses. The offense goes out, has a drive against the Giants defense. Then 3 plays later, oh man, we got to go out and play some more offense again. They're tiring out their opponents. This is a tactically bad offense for the sake of the defense. Yeah, Commanders got that one. What do you want me to say? Buccaneers head on over to the 49ers, and we all know Christian McCaffrey's a bum. He didn't score for his 18th straight week. I think we should cut him, basically. I don't know why we've got a white running back in the NFL in the year 2023.
He should sign with the Vikings, right?
That is a diversity hire if I've ever seen one. Get that man on special teams ASAP. But come on, man. The Buccaneers are not ready for this smoke. They're on the road. They're going across the country. They're playing an elite defense with Baker Mayfield. Nick Bosa is going to further exact his revenge upon young Baker for the various college matchups, the Oklahoma versus Ohio State stuff, and it's just not going to be fair. Baker Mayfield going into this gunfight with a couple water pistols, so to speak. Of course, those water pistols are his coach and his defensive secondary, but I'm saying the weapons around him are just, in totality, if we're counting the defenses and coaches as weapons, are lacking in comparison. 49ers are winning this one. What more is there to say?
There's not much to say. This doesn't feel like a game the Bucs are able to win, especially with how the 49ers seem to be back on track with their offense. Brock Purdy's played much better in his last game. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are both on the field together. Everyone's pretty much healthy, so that's a game the 49ers should win, and I think they will win. Now we have the Jets taking on the Bills. The Bills are a complete disaster right now. Between Trevon Diggs and his comments about Stephon Diggs, you have to think they've been talking behind the scenes. It doesn't seem like Stephon Diggs is very happy. Josh Allen has looked like he's regressed to year 2 Josh Allen. He hasn't been playing all that great, throwing a lot of interceptions. And the Bills are a mess, but they're playing the Jets, who Zach Wilson's their quarterback. I understand their defense is great, and they had 3 interceptions the first time they played the Bills, but the Bills are still going to win. They're going to take a step closer to maybe getting a playoff berth, maybe squeaking into that wild card. I know it's been a mess, but I do still think the Bills are going to win. They're also at home, hard to play in Buffalo.
I find it somewhat amusing that the AFC East, the division we thought could conceivably produce 2, maybe 3 playoff teams, is probably the worst in football right now, because the Bills are a mess. I think most people would still agree they're the best team in the division, even if Miami has a better record. That division stinks. Jets, Patriots.
You would take the Bills over the
They already
Dolphins?
beat the Dolphins once this year. They already manhandled the Dolphins once this year.
Yeah, with how hot and cold, I don't know. The Bills have been so hot and cold. It would be now. This week could change something if the Dolphins show up.
New offensive coordinator, man. That's all I'm gonna say. The magic is happening. They got
Joe Brady.
They got Joe Brady. They got Dable 2.0.
The Panthers. He was a Panthers OC, right?
I don't concern myself with the affairs of lesser organizations, man. I'm worried about the real teams, like the Sunday night matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos. And I've been high on the Vikings. I've said they're going to win every single game they play this year, and that has proven to be right more times than it is not. Bunch of one-score affairs, never really blown out, scrappy on defense. Josh Dobbs, phenomenal quarterback play for the situation he's in, and Justin Jefferson's back. That being said, Denver Broncos have arguably the best defense in football over the last month. Offense has resurged, and the Vikings are playing on the road at Mile High Stadium on Sunday Night Football. High pressure situation. So for that reason, actually, hold on, I thought of something else. I was going to pick the Broncos, but it occurred to me. Mile High Stadium, 5,280 feet up, right?
Yeah.
You know what Josh Dobbs used to be? The astronaut, the pastronaut. The closer you get that man to space, the better he is going to function. So I'm taking Josh Dobbs in a masterclass. Josh Dobbs at altitude is unstoppable. Give me the Vikings. 85 points offensively, maybe they'll let up 20 or 25. Dominance of the highest order. I am 100% confident Joshua Dobbs is delivering yet another victory.
Well, I am really excited to see the Vikings offense this week because they're getting Justin Jefferson back. And after letting Jordan Addison kind of be that number 1 receiver paired with TJ Hawkinson, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that helped Jordan Addison get a little bit more involved in the offense, a little bit more settled into the NFL, having that pair of Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. It seems like he's a little bit banged up every week, but having those 3, I think they're all going to be functioning at a very high level. Josh Dobbs in week 3, I'm also going to pick the Vikings to win.
No comments on the altitude?
It's a pretty good take.
Pretty good take. All right, you got one more on there.
I do have one more. We have the Seahawks taking on the Rams. The Rams, over the past few weeks, they've kind of been what we expected at the beginning of the year. They were much better than we all thought. Puka Nacua was going off. Kyron Williams was going off. The offense was functioning at a high level. Recent weeks, that hasn't been the case. A little bit of the same thing with the Seahawks, where we thought or at least I thought, their offense was going to be really good this year with some of the offensive pieces that they added. Hasn't been that so much. Last week in the fourth quarter, they showed up in a big way in order to get the win, and they're the better overall team. So I'm going to pick them in Los Angeles. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's not exactly a home game.
In defense of the Rams, Stafford's hurt, which is kind of making me appreciate how good Stafford in year whatever it was is. Playing fairly well considering what's around him. Like, besides Puka Nacua and Kupp, that offense stinks. So that's probably why they look a lot more mortal. But I agree with you. The Seahawks are winning that one. I just thought it'd be important to add that little bit of context. And now the Kelsey Bowl. On Monday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Taylor Swift and her family is going to be in attendance. They're going to meet the Kelseys. They're going to take photos. It's going to be great. We're going to see all the different Kelsey commercials talking about, arm wrestling, life insurance, their podcast. Oh, yeah, I think they're playing a football game that night, too. Yeah, give me the Eagles by about 85 points here. I just think our good pal Travis Kelce may be a bit too sucked into the proceedings, a bit too fond of the showmanship. Meanwhile, we've got the Kansas City wide receivers versus the Eagles secondary. That is going to be a lackluster matchup. Kelsey will probably have a decent game offensively, but I just don't see it, man. Give me the Eagles. Better defense, better O-line, better offense in some areas, certainly in the run game. I'll take in Philadelphia.
We constantly hear about how bad the Chiefs wide receiver core is, but the Eagles have one of the worst secondaries in the NFL when it comes to yards allowed. It's just a fact at this point. They've gotten diced up week in and week out by whichever quarterback steps out there. And when you have Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, I don't care who his receivers are. They figure out a way to get it done. Travis Kelce out there, and then Jalen Hurts is probably going to make a back-breaking mistake where he fumbles and it gets returned by Nick Bolton for 6, or someone on that defense. Maybe Chris Jones will get a pick 6 this week. The Eagles, they're going to make a mistake. The Chiefs, they're going to dice up that Eagles secondary, and the Chiefs are going to walk away with the win and reassert and teach all these Eagles fans out there that have convinced themselves the Eagles are the best team in the NFL, that the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They're still on top until someone knocks them off in the playoffs this year.
You're a hater to the core. You know that? To the core. Anyway,
I'm a hater.
You're a hater to the core.
Okay.
You know, I've got a few connections out there in the wide world of college football and a few in the NFL. They occasionally talk to me if I harass them enough. And I can honestly say there has never been a moment in game one of those guys, player, coach, whatever, has said, hey, now is when I want to talk to a sideline reporter. Now is the moment I want to interact with this person with a microphone. So I kind of understand it. A certain someone was making up quotes after the folks at home in the broadcast truck were yelling at her to say something. I understand. It's hard to get quotes and people want to avoid you. But when you're pushing up against a 340-pound offensive lineman, Lamar Jackson jukes you out of your shoes, I can understand both parties here. I don't really feel bad one way or the other about the situation. I kind of assumed it was happening already. Sideline reporters make stuff up. That's not news to anyone, and the people clutching their pearls about it are doing it for one of two reasons. One, they are upset that this young woman has gone on a podcast and revealed trade secrets that they are in fact doing themselves. I think that's more of it than some people would like to admit. And two, they're envious of the position that she was in. Now that no one is listening, because I've gone on a rant about the podcast and sideline reporting for 5 minutes, you got anything you want to close this out with?
Well, I mean, in regards to that, I don't think has anyone really cared when a sideline reporter comes out, a player, well, maybe they care when a player gets injured, but at halftime, when they have the coaches come out and say something quickly.
When a player gets injured, sure, but do you think they're over there sticking the mic in the face? Hello, would you like to give us a comment? Why is your knee pointing that way? Hello?
No, exactly. That's not happening. And the coaches, they give BS commentary anyway. They're not actually telling you how they feel. In post-game pressers, they don't exactly tell you exactly what happened, and they're certainly not telling you how they feel during the game because they don't want it to become a storyline. And a lot of times the coaches don't want to come out. So anyone that's shocked by this, I think, like Isaiah said, they're either doing it themselves or they're being dishonest about the fact because they don't want to acknowledge that no one really cares about their job during the game. They want to see maybe the post-game press conference, the post-game on-the-field interviews after the game. That's what I think they're really there for, because that's when players will give honest answers and coaches will give more honest answers. But the stuff during the game, which is what she revealed she sometimes makes up, no one cared about in the first place, and you don't get good answers when they actually show up anyway. So I really don't understand why people have been so upset about that.
Like, the best sideline interview moments are a guy screaming incoherently or saying some ridiculously hot take. Which, hey, if that's going to happen, they're going to do it in front of a camera regardless. If you're going to get a, God, I can't even think of the last time that's happened. It all comes post-game. But long story short, Thicc is unemployable by ESPN. We will be looking for the Barstool contract. I'm going to be up in Michigan for the Ohio game, looking for Dave Portnoy, putting resumes in the shape of paper airplanes and chucking them at him all game. Eventually, one will get to him.
Can I come?
No, God no, unless you're paying it for a ticket. I don't want to spend 10 hours with a car with you.
Maybe we can do a 10-hour car podcast.
Tristan, I'm pretty sure I would wreck the car unintentionally or not at some point.